What is that?
Colorful one.
My son's.
Hey, Manish. Can you hear me?
Hey man, how are you?
Good. How are you? How was your trip to Canada?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
How was your trip to Canada?
Yeah, man, so tired, man. My wife is still sick. So how everything going, man? I got a new job there.
Oh, congratulations.
So I'm starting on January 28th.
28?
Yeah. Everything is done. Visa transfer in progress.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
It's RB.com. It's a very big company.
Okay. Yeah, you were telling me the other day. Yeah.
And what about us, man?
Yeah, did you give it a try? And if you have questions, then I'll be happy to answer those questions.
At least one of them we can do from scratch, not wall. We will do it. I did some research, like console application, right? Getting some lot of doubts on that one.
Okay. Yeah. What are the doubts you're getting?
Okay. What? Okay. The doubts.
Can I ask you one thing, Ashwin? So instead of this like a partial view, can we include that in our like a main view?
When you say can we include that?
Yeah, partial view in the sense the down portion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So can we include that
in the main view itself?
Yeah.
You can. How are you going to update the table?
That's what I need to look.
Yeah, that's going to get a little tricky because with the table, yeah, it will get a little more difficult to show the data in the table because we are using a simple HTML table.
So that is better for like the updating table, right? Partial view.
Partial view is better in this situation. Now there are other tables as well where you can pass data and it will automatically update. These are like third-party tables that people have written. But they're open source and we can use it. But for the table that we are using, the HTML table, it's going to be difficult because you'll have to return data as a JSON in JSON format and then show it. That's going to be tricky.
So let me show you my screen.
Some questions?
Yeah. Can I show you my screen?
Yeah, go ahead. Share your screen. Are you able to, can you try to share?
Yeah, I'm trying to share. And that's the thing, how to share now.
There is a share option in the bottom. Are you able to see that? Let me check. Who can share? Yeah, it says all participants.
Yeah, I got it on the bottom. All participant share the desktop, right? Can you share? See?
Yeah, I can.
Can you see the second screen?
I can see your screen, which is Visual Studio.
Okay, Visual Studio. So there was one class called Write a Console Application where we have vehicle as a class and derived class as a car.
Okay.
And we have to define the properties like name, model, price, everything.
Okay.
And here I have done like this is the class.
Yeah.
Right. And where to define the subclass? We do have to define the subclass derived class here itself like this.
You can define it in a different file. Like you have written vehicle.cs as a file. You can create one more file for the derived class.
So if you say one more file for the derived class, we have to go here.
Yeah.
Add
new item.
And this will be what this will be called car, right?
Yeah. Define car.
Car. So now this car is done. Now we have to define the speed of a car. And now we have to the car inherits from the vehicle, right? So you have to use using.
They are the same namespace. You don't have to say using.
Do we have to specify vehicles.cs here? Vehicle?
No, you don't have to. You can say class car colon.
That is the first thing.
Okay. So,
and then give the other one vehicle.
Let me make this 3 things
like this.
Yeah. So now your class, your car derives from class.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, your car derives from vehicle.
Now the car inherits from the vehicle that has unique property speed booster.
Okay. So add a property called speed booster.
So use add a property. So we'll add inside. Sorry, not here. String, right?
Speed booster. Speed booster is it's something that is probably not a string. It is a
Double?
value.
It's a double.
Double.
Like this.
Yeah.
That's it.
And open parenthesis like after speed booster, do a open parenthesis.
Okay, I got it.
Angular bracket. Yeah. Then do a get set.
Is this why this is coming like this?
Before the my view is not showing.
Yeah, so it's saying it should have at least one accessor, which means that it should have a get set accessor. So do a
Really?
inside. Just do get colon, a semicolon, get semicolon, semicolon,
There is your home controller.
and set semicolon. Yeah, yeah. Now this is a property of
The
car.
okay. The speed of the car is calculated as gear into speed constant plus escalation.
Yeah, you should be trying this, and then you can ask questions. Now, if we have to do this, then it's going to take time. We're going to lose.
Agree. I was stuck like, oh, what is the derived class and how you add it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I can explain to you the derived class and derived class, the concept. We can set up a separate time
Sure.
over that if you have more questions on that.
Sure.
Yeah. So you make your class public and also make your property public. So that access specifier you have to give, yeah, say public. Yeah, P is small.
Why the solution explorer is like that?
Yeah, even your property you make public.
Property.
Yeah. Yeah, we can spend more time on this.
Sure.
Yeah. Did you say Vinita will be joining?
She's sick, man. Last 1 week, 4 days.
Okay, no problem. We'll get. So what I think what we'll do today is we will we'll cover. We'll start on Angular.
Sure.
So far we saw how to input data using an ASP.NET MVC form.
Can we spend like 10-15 minutes on assignment that was done by Aishwarya or Salini?
They are also in the process of working on the assignment.
Oh, bad.
Share. The assignment given was to enter inputs in a form and then show and save that information in the database, and then show that saved information in the table below on the same form. The similar thing was I already did and uploaded in a sample, and it's there in GitHub. You could also look at that if you have any questions.
I couldn't see it. Here I'm busy. Empty. We said empty, right? Okay.
You guys are trying to do the assignment now?
I'm starting a new one. The previous one was giving problems. The Solution Explorer is not showing everything. Remember we made those tables and all, so I'm starting all over again.
I think you like choose empty.
Yeah, choose empty. Yeah.
Let's start on
Yeah, we'll start
Angular.
We'll do this
You
later.
have to see the same thing. What I was thinking is that the same assignment that you're working on will, once you become familiar with Angular, once you learn Angular, then you can do the same thing. You replace the HTML part or the UI part with Angular, and your backend will still be ASP.NET Web API. And then you'll be able to post data to ASP.NET Web API. So that's where I'm going as a next step.
Okay.
If you guys are still working on the sending the data or creating the form using ASP.NET MVC, then you work on it. But
Gotcha.
at the same time, you have to also do this one now. See, that's the thing. Now, if you don't catch up, then you'll start falling behind. Don't complete your assignments, you'll start falling behind then.
So Salini has done it. What I heard, right?
No, I haven't. Aishwarya has done it.
So can we do a group for half an hour afterward? Like,
Yeah, that's what I was telling Aishwarya. We should do it together.
At least you start, otherwise how will you do? That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. You just try to do.
Okay.
and if I have done myself, I won't be here, right?
Well, if you, I mean, so every class we are learning something new. I mean, if you have done using ASP.NET MVC, then you kind of get some idea about how the data is shown on the UI, how is the data getting posted to the server, and how it's getting saved to the database. Now, the same thing now we will be doing using Angular. So you would have learned something. You would be doing things in a different way using Angular now.
Okay.
So definitely you will need to attend every class. It's not like you attended one class, then you know. We are actually getting into a new topic now.
Okay.
Okay. Angular is just like, it is another, we can say, cousin of jQuery, right? Like if you remember, we said jQuery is an abstraction over JavaScript. Similarly, Angular is also another abstraction over JavaScript, and it makes the programmers' life easy. So basically, Angular, if I have to put it in layman terms, it is used for single-page applications. And what a single-page application means is that there is only one index.html page, and we design the application in such a way that it gives a feeling that there are multiple pages, but it's actually only one page. So what really happens is that in that single page, there you can have multiple components. It's called, right? So let's say you have a form. If you remember the ASP.NET MVC example that we did, you have a form where you are putting in values, and then the updated values you're seeing in the table below. So this can be, in terms of Angular, if I have to look at that form, the top part can be one component where you're inputting values, and the bottom part can be another component. Okay. So a page is a set of components in Angular. That's how it works. Angular, they started with 1.x. 1.x was called AngularJS, but from 2.x onwards, it is called Angular. So the current version is 7, and they are almost releasing new versions every 3-4 months. not too many changes happen over. So from 1.x to 2.x, there is a big change. 1.x is almost like nobody uses 1.x. 2.x, so they started with 2 and then 3, 4, 5, 6, and now 7 is there. Then they're going to 8. But the 2.x architecture is the same. So if you know any version of 2.x, then you pretty much, it's easy for you to, when they upgrade to 8 from 7, then it's pretty much easy for you to understand. They make some few additions, they add some new few classes, they improve some few classes, so they try to make our life easy. But the concepts are the same. In everything above 2.x, the concepts are the same. Okay, now let's look at what are the different parts in an Angular application. Manish, you can see?
Yeah, I can see.
All right. When you look at an Angular application, there are certain things that are you need to be familiar with, the terminology in an Angular application. So there's a concept called a module, and then there's a concept called components. And a module is at high level, and components are within a module. It's and components, different components. There can be multiple components in a module. So the hierarchy is module, component. And a component can have child components. So here in this diagram, you can see those orange boxes are actually child components. So there can be multiple child components within a parent component. So there can be nested components, in other words. A component is really the key, I would say, block of an Angular application. So the component, we look at how a component looks. A component actually is nothing but a class. So if you, so this is a typical component definition. So you can see here that products list component is a component. So you can see that it is a class. And then the class can have properties and methods. Just like in object-oriented C#, right? We say any class can have properties and methods. Similarly, a class in Angular can have will have properties and methods. So in this case, page title is one property, and it is of type string. There are no methods. I haven't shown any methods, but you can have methods in a component. Now, a component will have something called a component decorator, right? And that component decorator is the way it's represented is it is at component. Anything that says at component is a component decorator. Now, why do we have a component decorator? A component decorator is used to define metadata for a component. Now, what is metadata in general?
Properties.
Metadata is data about data. So, for example, if I have to give you an example, let's say I tell that there is, let's say that we take a city, right? Let's say we take the Novi city. So in Novi city, there are so many different schools and so many different offices. All that is data, right? Now to tell that Novi has 10 schools or Novi has 20 offices is actually talking, is giving information about the data. It is data about data. So when I say 20 offices, it is not telling me what are those 20 offices or what are those 30 schools in Novi. So it is talking about data. So that is metadata. Metadata is nothing but data about data, some description about the data. It's like reference. It's like a definition of the data. Data about data, we say. So here, right, if you see the components, what we are telling is that the component, the metadata has 3 parts. It has something called a selector, a template URL, and a style URL. And we'll come to what this is, what this means. So this is how basically component looks like when you're defining a component. Now, what is a selector? A selector is nothing but a HTML tag. So this is like saying that app-product list is like a HTML tag I can use in my file, HTML file. So that's a selector. What is a template URL? Template URL is if you include this selector in any HTML file, right? Then that selector will be replaced with whatever is there in a template URL. Okay, and style URLs is the styles that will be used to be applied in the HTML file. We'll look at a real life example and then you'll understand. So for example,
Vinita cannot join the class for some reason. She is in the class, but
okay.
So can you let her in the class?
She has come.
Yeah, she's there.
I don't see. I just see you and me in this. I don't see anything else.
Like she is trying to connect, and the same link what I clicked on, and she cannot connect.
Not sure what's happening.
Okay.
Just like you could try to connect, I think she has to try to connect.
Can I add her from here or no?
I mean, I can't add her. I mean, she has to click the link and come in.
Okay. Let me see why she cannot. 1 minute.
Okay. So I was saying that go back to let's go back to the component definition. Now this whole Angular thing, right? This whole setup of Angular, there's something called Angular CLI, which is like a command line interface. In Angular, they have added something called Angular CLI, which is Angular command line interface, which you use for Angular applications, right? So
I think she is in.
Okay. So if you see, so you guys have installed your Visual Studio Code, right? You have that editor. Can you open that editor? And have you guys also installed npm? So in the prerequisites document that I had shared with you, there was a link to install npm as well. Let me show you that.
Oh, I have to remove all this.
Prerequisites
This is
software.
Visual Studio Code editor, right?
Yeah, Visual Studio Code, right?
I have to remove practice here.
So Visual Studio Code you have installed. Okay, let's install npm. So then can you, the next step is you need to install npm. Let me actually show you how to do that. npm. Download.
I said Visual Studio npm.
No, Visual Studio Code is good.
Okay.
Now you go to this link. where I want you to download NPM.
Just you have to type in the command line npm.
Sending the email.
Yeah. So you guys need to go to this link here. https://nodejs.org.
Can you ping us in the chat window, please?
I didn't get your email yet, Ashwin. You got your email?
Chat. Okay, I just pasted it in the chat window. So for you guys, you can, you can see it. So send you the email.
So we are doing LTS version, right?
You're doing what?
LTS version, the Node.js.
Yeah, we're doing the LTS version. Yes. So you can take the latest one. So LTS for Windows. So you can see here.
And there are 4 options. Add to the path, Node.js runtime. Which one you want to pick up?
So yours is a 64-bit machine, right?
Right.
So you click on Windows installer. So under LTS you have an option saying Windows installer. You click on that, and it will download the MSI file.
I downloaded it, and now in the install, it asked me add to the path. There's an option.
Yeah, add to the path. Yes.
Okay, we have to will be installed.
Are you able to download it?
It's done.
Install it. Good. Now click on that Windows installer.
This one?
Now click on the top, like click here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It'll download, and then you install it. So you can do this. Shall we say show in folder, and it will open the folder where it downloaded.
Are we doing TypeScript also here?
Yeah.
It is.
So here it will download it. Then you double click it. Yeah, our coding will be in TypeScript. Angular. We will write the Angular code in TypeScript.
I think installation is done.
Okay, I'm waiting for these people also to finish their install.
Just click next, right?
Yeah.
So Node.js runtime.
Yeah. Click.
So Salini is working.
No.
So we can bug her, right? Half an hour at least, whatever she has done, at least, you know.
I've not done anything. I'll sit and do it today or tomorrow.
So I'm confused with Salini and Aishwarya. Aishwarya has done.
Not done partially.
So we'll go over the partial thing.
To install. Angular has a lot of documentation available. One of the links that we will be following is, let me share that link with you as well.
I have to return this computer, this laptop. I borrowed it from someone. I have to do everything on this. I'll lose all my work on this. I did it.
Okay.
So where do I find it now?
So it's downloaded?
Yeah. It's node B1015X.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Welcome to setup wizard. Again, it's showing that.
Yeah. Just click next.
Change.
Oh, you already have it? Looks like you already have a version on it, your machine.
I must have, I don't know.
Must have installed it. Okay.
Yeah.
Just click cancel. Or click change. Do change.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to change. Yeah. Next. Yeah. Next. Change. Yeah. Okay.
Did you send the instructions for this when we?
I
before
thought
the
I
class?
did, but I just
Yeah.
checked the document. It's not in that document.
Okay, I must have done it.
Done it. Now, once you're in,
Node.js, right?
you installed it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This,
So you
this is what you
download-
want to open node.js website?
You already downloaded it, so you don't have to go there now
Okay.
to the website again.
Okay.
The website was to download it.
Okay.
What is your question? Oh, that one? Don't worry. You go just open your Visual Studio Code.
That will come.
Yeah, just open your Visual Studio Code. And Manish, you have Visual Studio Code, right, on your machine?
Yes, I do. I have used Visual Code before.
Okay, good. Now you can see on the screen, this is Visual Studio Code. So go to View and then say Integrated Terminal.
Where's that?
Under the View menu,
Okay.
you don't have View menu.
It says
Okay, I have view menu, yeah.
Under that Integrated Terminal,
it just says terminal.
Yeah, this terminal.
okay, say Terminal.
Okay.
Okay, good.
It's a command line basically. We have to.
Yeah. Now, you install. Next step will be to install the Angular CLI. So I just sent you a link as well, where a lot of these steps on installing npm, which is Node Package Manager, and then installing Angular CI is all documented. So our next step will be to install Angular CLI. So on the command prompt, so you can see my screen here. Let me show you the screen.
npm
Yeah. Okay.
Should I?
Go to so in the integrated terminal that you open, right? Install. Do this. npm space install -g, which is global, at Angular/CLI. Type that in the integrated terminal
Oh,
in Visual Studio Code. So go to Visual Studio Code. Yeah, right there. Do that.
Can you copy and paste this command line on the chat window, please? It doesn't take for me for some reason.
Yeah.
so
npm is not recognized as the cmd.
not this. Angular.
No, not that. Are you able to install?
Okay.
Yeah.
RPM.
Just need to type here.
Yeah. You can.
Install dash G.
Paste. It's saying npm is not recognized.
Yeah.
So did your npm install happen successfully? Out package manager.
So I did this.
Okay, I'm doing again from the command line. Sorry. It works from the command line. npm install/g. It works from the command line.
Okay, good.
It's NPM.
With the P.
So go to the command line, not with that terminal window. It works.
I have 4 eyes. Oh my God.
So it installed.
Okay, good.
So
And the version is 6.4.1.
Angular. Again, it's not doing it. It's dash G. -G. I did that. See? Why it's not going?
It's not going.
What did I do wrong?
The term. Is it npm or rpm?
This is N.
npm. Okay. Recognize the name of us. Okay, let's do this. Let's go to the normal command prompt. The cmd. Enter. Okay, do it here. npm. Sorry. Yeah, npm.
NPM
Space install.
space
Space -g.
-G dash at Angular.
The forward slash. Sorry. Enter. Okay. So this Angular command line interface, so this is CLI is command line interface, is very powerful. So we will use it to create the Angular project structure and do a lot of other things also going forward. Now, you need to select a spot where you want to create your first application, Angular application. So anywhere in your physical directory, create a folder location where your Angular projects will be sitting. Say,
Can I start on this one before? No.
yeah, go ahead, start on this one. What happened to that?
This is not mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to return this garbage.
Okay. Okay.
So I have a lot of work on me.
So if you can pick like C somewhere in C colon, you can create a folder called Angular apps, right? Or if you have a training folder, then under the training folder, you can create Angular apps, right? Any one folder you create for your Angular applications. Have you guys done that?
Let me do it here. Then I'll go home and do on that one. Okay.
Do it here. That's fine. I'll help you with that. Go ahead.
As we talked from the beginning, that node and all. That's
That
why.
node, right? You have Visual Studio Code on this one?
No,
You don't have the editor.
I have to do it.
Then you think it's better you do on this
Yeah.
machine.
So any folder like SQL Server we can use, you said.
Use a folder for your Angular app. So C colon, say training, create a folder called training, and then create another folder called Angular apps in that. Okay. Now in that, now on your command prompt, go to that folder. Manish, go to the folder in the command prompt. Go to that folder location that you created.
Angular apps. Right?
Angular app. Okay, you need to go to that folder. So yeah, that location. Yeah. You click
Yes,
that.
Ashwant, I'm trying to do for my wife here.
Okay. Okay. Good.
So from
CD directory. You can do a right click. Yeah, enter. Angular app, there's a space. So quotes. For C colon. Double quotes. Yeah, extension, 1 second. Space here. It won't understand. Now you're there. So now you do that ng space new my app.
what to do now, Ashwin? I did the folder. I found a new folder, training and Angular app.
Okay. So your npm, did that install successfully? You are on the other command prompt window, right? Come here. Yeah. Okay, good. That's done. Now you go to that folder that you created. So what you can do
Would
is,
you like to add Angular?
yeah, click there. Yeah, just click on the side. Say Control C. Yeah, just wait. We can go
Control
together on
C.
it. Control C. Right here. And then the CD, which is change directory. Space. Okay. From here, okay, do this. Okay, enter. So now we are in that directory. Okay. Now you do ng. See on the screen,
Yeah.
there's ng space new space my app. So what this is doing is ng is a command from Angular, the Angular CLI. So we are saying ng new. We are saying create a new app by name my app. That's what this means. Okay. Did you do that?
Yeah.
Enter. Okay. Manish, are you? Have you?
Yeah,
Have
I'm
you,
here.
On the command prompt, can you do ng space?
ng.
Can you see on the screen? I'm sharing the screen.
Oh, you're saying this. I can see the screen. I'm seeing your email. Zoom password reset.
Oh, you've seen my email? Okay, okay, hold on. Let me put this right back. Okay. You can see the screen?
Yes.
So type ng space new space my app. My
Okay.
hyphen app.
ng new my dash
app. So what this does is, so ng is it's a command. See, it's a CLI command. It's a command line interface command of Angular. So that's creating a new application called my app. That's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. Would you like to add routing? Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I think everybody is on the same page. So do yes. And then what's the next? So it's guiding you actually to kind of set up the whole system. Which style sheet format would you like to use? It's CSS is what it's saying by default. Click enter. Okay. So it's creating. So it's creating that whole environment for you for that application. It's creating the application structure for you. Automatically, it's doing it. Yeah. So
I want to do everything on this, Ashwin. Giving me this, node, this. Why?
yeah, it's saying save it, right? Save it. Yeah, save it. Yeah, let it save. This failed.
Yeah.
Okay, yours is done. Successfully initialized Git. Okay, good. Manish, yours is done. Manish,
Do you use Angular at your work all the time?
Still going on.
So good at all this, right? And Ashwin?
yeah, you keep working on it, you get better and better. If I get you some interviews,
Yeah.
hear it.
So
So
they will ask questions on Angular and everything.
yeah. So if you do these examples, then you'll be able to answer those questions. Huh?
Yeah.
Going on? Is it done for you, Manish?
Yeah.
Okay. Now go to that folder. So we just created a folder called My App as well. So you do CD space.
Can I do it?
Yeah. Correct. CD space my hyphen.
क्या कर रहे हैं कुछ तो करा नहीं रहा तो उसको गया
हाँ।
उधर जाके मतलब
Now do ng space serve serve space hyphen o, enter. Manish, did you do that? No access. Manish, did you do that?
I'm doing it. Which one is that?
Did you do a cd my app? Go to that directory which we just created, and then do ng serve op hyphen o.
ng.
I'm sharing it on the screen. ng serve hyphen o.
Okay.
Yeah, that's your first Angular application. So it's running. So that's your. Since this page has been created using Angular, running on your local machine, but it's an Angular app. So now we will go into the directory structure that got created, and we will explore that.
ng.
Done?
dash open, right?
No, just one hyphen O. Yeah. No, Git is not required. It is not. So now you do go to that directory, say change directory, cd space my hyphen app. That's the new application we created. So there's a directory. Okay, now you do ng space serve serve hyphen o space hyphen o space hyphen o. O is open. Enter. Now it should open a web. It should open a. So it's opened a. It's using its own internal development server, and it's you can see the application on localhost. That's where it creates it. So it's using a local development server, which the CLI has. It provides inbuilt. So that's
Hello?
what we're using right now to view the application. Now what we'll do is let's look at the okay. Changes. All right. Now, in your Angular, in your Visual Studio Code, open your Visual Studio Code, and then say open folder, and then select the my app folder wherever you created. In my case, I'm selecting the my app folder where I created it, and just say select folder. Are you able to go there? Yeah, my app is what you just created, right? Yeah, select that. Through Visual Studio Code. Go to Visual Studio Code. Yeah.
Hello, Ashwin.
File, open, folder. Yeah.
Hey, Ashwin, I missed you.
Open Visual Studio Code.
So I did ng serve /o. It shows term ng is not recognized as the name of the CMD.
You did ng space serve space hyphen o, enter.
Yeah.
On the command line.
On the command line. On ng.
Here.
It shows ng is not recognized as the internal or external command.
This PC.
You installed you installed the CLI, right? The Angular
Yeah.
CLI.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get that?
Yeah.
Angular app, right?
Yeah,
Training.
yeah.
Did you go to my app folder?
Yes, I'm there.
Show me your share your screen.
Okay.
Why is it saying this? No, I have used this before. Editor, It says, do you want to change it to, I'll say, don't say. I was just practicing that time.
Okay, good. This is where we want to be.
Okay, I'm there.
Go to the don't go to Visual Studio Code yet. Go to the normal command prompt.
Okay, I'm there. Can you see?
I'm seeing your Visual Studio Code.
So how to new share?
Go to run and do CMD. Click enter.
Okay, I'm there.
Okay. Now do just ngserve. Yeah. Oh, enter. Go to the folder that we created, which you created, where my app is. Where was it? Okay. Now do ngserve. Yeah. So. Do ng. Ng help. Do ng hyphen help. Ng is not recognized. So do dir. Okay. Can you do a install of the CLI again? So do npm install -g space at Angular /CLI. Okay. Did you install your npm?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, let's do. Show me where is your npm installed. Like where did you download your npm? Like the one that the node package manager that you downloaded from the website.
This one.
Yeah. Okay, starting to install.
It's installed already. See.
I can see a command prompt window.
Only command prompt. Okay, so let me. It's here.
Sure.
So
Tell me that wizard that.
So it is here. CD.
Double click that. That's fine. Just double click that MSI.
I double clicked. It shows me you want to change, repair, remove.
Okay, do a change.
Okay, change. It shows me.
Do a remove.
Remove. Okay, it's removing.
Let's install it again. No.
Actually, he works in Angular 5.
Yes. Okay. So does he use Angular CLI, the command line interface? Okay. So there are different ways to use Angular. Angular CLI is very powerful. There's also system.js is another way. Then there's another way called Webpack. See, there are different combinations that you can use. But if your husband is working on 5, then 7 is almost the same. What's happening with the wizard?
It is removing files.
Okay.
Removing files.
Yeah.
Okay, it's done.
Okay. Can you launch it again? Let's install it again.
I click on next. Yes. Accept.
Yeah.
Next. Okay, so next. Node.runtime.js. Do I have to check anything here?
No, just go ahead or take the defaults only.
Okay, next. Installed. Installed.
Okay, good. Now go to command prompt.
Okay.
And say npm install. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Install /g Angular CLI.
Right. Yeah.
npm is not recognized as an internal external command. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
But I ran this one before. It worked fine.
It did?
Yeah.
So go to your Visual Studio Code.
Okay. Okay.
Share your screen and then run that command. Share.
Okay.
Yeah. No. The npm, the Angular CLI, npm install. npm. Oh.
Okay, I got it. Give me 1 second.
npm install at -g and Angular /CLI. Not recognized.
So if I do the same thing from command line, do I have to reboot the box?
Remove what?
Reboot the box.
I have to reboot the box.
It's not recognized. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, what did you do, Manish?
Nothing, man.
Let's see.
Visual Code. Run as administrator.
Yeah, try. Oh, jeez.
Okay, I think it's picking up NGM.
Try restarting. Oh, is it picking up now?
Yeah, I typed npm. You can see my screen, right?
Oh, it's picking up. Okay.
Before it was not picking up. It's not recognized, right? npm. So npm /install, right?
npm install /g -g space at Angular /CLI.
Okay, I have to restart that code, Visual Code.
Oh, Visual Studio Code. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay. All right.
Okay, it's done.
Okay, good. Now let's do. Let's go to change directory. Let's go to change directory ng app. ng-app.
Cannot find.
Does not exist. Okay, I think.
Make directory, right?
Yeah, let's do.
Make directory, right? First.
Yeah, do a ng new my-app.
Like this?
ng space new. ng space new space my app.
Okay. Would you like to add? Yes.
Enter.
Already exists. See?
Automatic workflow failed. It's already existing. Okay. Then now do so I think okay, that's good. Now do go to that go to CD my-app.
Okay.
Okay, now do ng serve, ng space serve -open space -open space -o -o.
I think it's taking it.
Okay, click yes there. Okay, good. So it should open a browser now.
Yeah, it did.
It did? Okay, good. So you can see that that's your first Angular application. We just you just ran your first Angular application. So Angular CLI itself comes with a development server. You can see in the it says one of the messages it says in the command prompt is that there's an Angular dev server running, and the port where the URL where the application can be accessed is localhost
Yeah.
200.
Yes.
Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the structure of my app application that it created. So can you go to Visual Studio Code and then open your my app folder?
Okay, I'm there.
Go to File and say Open. Yeah.
Open folder.
Open folder and open the my app folder.
It should be where?
Yeah, it's right there. It's after music. Okay,
Yeah.
just say select now. Select folder. Select folder down. No, don't do that. Just click select folder.
Okay.
All right. Okay, good. So this is our. So what you're seeing on the left is the folder structures that it created. Now what we'll do is we'll look at what each of these means. Let me share my screen. So in your application or in your Visual Studio Code, you should see similar to what I'm seeing or what I'm sharing on my screen, except for dist folder. You should see all the other folders. Now there are some important files here, and you need to understand what these files mean. So let's look at these one by one. So I'll also open the files here. So the first one is now if you go into the src folder, you will you won't see product list and shared, but you will see the other files. You will see app.module.ts and app.component.ts and app.component.html and so on. Now, when we are writing code for Angular, we use a language called TypeScript. Now, TypeScript is different from JavaScript. TypeScript it's more, I would say, it's a language that Microsoft has come up with, and it helps in easy coding, I would say. So they have come up with with TypeScript. But what happens is that the browsers that we have, they don't understand TypeScript. They understand only JavaScript. So what happens is that when we build the TypeScript files, the output is JavaScript files, so that those files can be run on the browser. Get it? So when we do all our coding, we do the coding in TypeScript. So we say that TypeScript code is transpiled into JavaScript. You will hear that word transpiled. Transpiled means that it is getting kind of converted to JavaScript. The reason that happens is because browsers today don't understand TypeScript, and they only understand JavaScript, so that transpilation process is required. Now, the structure of Angular app, we saw that the two important parts in an Angular app is module and components, right? Now, what is a module, right? So you can see that a structure will be something like this. So there is something called as an app module, which is your application module, which is your root module, and that root module will have a bunch of components in it. Now, an application can have more than one module, that's possible, but one module will be the root module. Now, in this case, it's called app module, that's our root module. Now, is there app module in the file structure that we created? Yes. This file here that says app.module.ts is our root module, right? Now, let's look at the structure of the root module. Feel free to stop me if it is getting if too many new terms, then feel free to stop me and
TS
I
is
can
TypeScript,
explain. TS is TypeScript, yes.
which transpiles to JavaScript.
It transpiles to JavaScript. Now you can see that the format of a module.ts file, app.module.ts file, is to begin with, there is something called app module class, right? Just like if you remember for component, we had app component, right? For modules, we have the naming convention is the name of the module followed by the module word. So that's just a naming convention. You can pretty much have any name, but that's the naming convention we follow. So export class app module. Above that, we have a decorator. So anything that starts with @ symbol is called a decorator. Now, why do we have a decorator? A decorator is nothing but it contains information about the module. So that's the reason we have a decorator. So @ng module is a decorator. Now, if you see @ng module, it is like a function. Why am I saying it's like a function? Or it is a function because you can see it has parentheses. You see, I put the focus here. The end focus is ending here down. So that whole thing is like whatever is there within the parenthesis is like parameters, you can say. So @ng module is like a function. Now, question is like, what is there within the what parameters are there for that @ng module? So the first thing is declarations, and then we have imports, and then we have providers, and then we have bootstrap. Now, each of these terms means something. So declarations means all the components that you are using in your module need to be listed here. We said that a module can have multiple components. Now, all the components that you use in this module has to be listed here. Now, I'm using 3 components here. you will just see app component in your file.
Yeah.
Because I went ahead and created some more components, which eventually you will also be doing. So right now, declarations will contain means it is a place or it is an array, right? As soon as you see the square brackets, it is an array. So this is an array of component names you need to show, you need to say. What is next is import. Now import is a place where you will import some Angular library, Angular modules or some third-party modules. Like for example, browser module is a Angular module. Why am I saying it's an Angular module? You can see here, I am importing browser module from @Angular/platform browser. Now, what is this @Angular/platform browser? Now, there is a folder called node_modules. So node_modules, if you open it, it has a bunch of folders. There are a bunch of folders here. It's a long list. Now your npm, right, your node package manager that you had installed, the job of the npm is to bring the node modules that your application needs. And what are node modules? Node modules is like NuGet packages. You remember in the ASP.NET MVC world, you have NuGet packages.
Yeah.
Why are NuGet packages used?
Migration? No.
Mm-hmm. What's the purpose of NuGet packages in
Oh,
ASP.NET MVC? We saw NuGet packages, right?
Yeah, we saw.
NuGet
Third-party
packages.
add-ons, you mean?
I'm sorry?
Third-party add-ons?
Third-party add-ons, right? So those are like third-party features or functionality somebody is providing. Let's say a table, right? A beautiful table. Somebody has written a beautiful code for a beautiful table. If they have to provide, if you have to use that table in your application, in ASP.NET MVC, you will be, they will provide that as a NuGet package, and you will be including that NuGet package and be using it. In the Angular world, they will be providing it as a node module, and you will be downloading that node module and you will be using that in your application. So here, browser module is a module that the Angular team has written that is available under @Angular/platform browser. So if I go to @Angular, there is something called platform browser. So this browser module is a module that's available in the platform browser folder. That's why we are saying this. Now, why do I need this browser module? You need a browser module if you have to use, if you have to run your application in a browser, the Angular application. The Angular application by itself cannot run in a browser. You need the browser module so that the Angular application can be viewed on a browser. Plus, there are few more functionalities that are provided by the browser module. That is why we have included it here. Now, browser module is not a module that you have written in the application. It is a module that is available from Angular. You are using it. That's why you are importing it. Once you import it, you have to mention it here. You mention it here in the imports, plus you also have to write the import statement, right? Which means that you are using it. Similarly, I have another module called forms module. That also I'm importing it. You will not see it because, and then you will see ng module. Ng module is a module that will help me do the write the decoration, put the decorator. That's why I have imported the ng module. Similarly, you will not see the import statements. You will see only the import statement for app component. You won't see the others. And this app component has to be imported because it has to be included in the bootstrap. Now, what is bootstrap? Bootstrap is telling me where is my starting point. Like, what does bootstrap mean in general? Let's say I want to bootstrap my application. If I say, what does it mean? Any guesses?
Make it more.
Suppose you are targeting different application like MacBook, iPad, like content targeting. So it will adapt to the screen. Screen will adapt.
Not really.
It
So
makes the page more responsive.
Not really. So Bootstrap is to kind of create a starting point for your application. So there are so many different components. There are 3 components that I am showing on my screen. So you have to tell Angular, hey, what is your starting component? That what is the root component from where it will start to process. So that is what will go into Bootstrap, right? And then there is a providers array. The providers array will is where we will specify services, and we will look at it. So right now it's empty, so it doesn't matter. You can put empty also, and so that's what this whole app module.ts file means, right? So we were actually looking at app module.ts file. That's what it means. So if you see the app module.ts file, it basically is defining a root module, and in the root module you're saying what are the components that I am going to use, what are the external modules that I will be using in the application, and what is my bootstrap component, what is my starting component. That's what the job of the app.module.ts file is. So this is your root module. Now, any questions? Okay. Next file is app.component.ts. Let's go to that. App.component.ts. It is similar to the it is similar. It is the same as the definition that I was showing you earlier in the presentation. If you come to the presentation, you can see here. This is the definition I showed for a component.
Which heading does it come under? SRC?
Yeah, under SRC in app. Under app, you have app.module.ts and app.component.ts. So we're looking at app.component.ts. Yeah, you are already in node modules, so what we can do is go up, minimize this guy, go to node modules, under SRC, app, and then app.component.ts. Okay. So your app.component.ts is your entry component, or is your is one of your components, and it is an entry component. Remember that module by itself cannot do nothing. It needs components, and this is one of your components in the module. Now, what does it contain? It has, remember that component is nothing but a class. So we say export. Now, why should I say export? The reason I say export is because if I want other components or other modules to access my class, then I need to say export. I need to use the keyword export. That's why we have that keyword export. So it says export class app component in brackets. It's a class. So title equal to my app. What does it mean? You can do this as well. So what is title? It's a property. In a class, there are properties and methods, right? So this is one property, and then I can say, probably you don't have it in your, because are you seeing that you have title? Okay, good. So then I'll define a method saying get title colon. It doesn't return anything. I say void open parenthesis close parenthesis. This is a new method. Just like in C#, you have properties and methods. Even in the TypeScript world, any file that ends with .ts is a TypeScript file. In the TypeScript world, you have classes. Classes have properties and methods. Right? It's simple. Now, above that app component, I have a decorator. Now, that's why we don't have a semicolon here. What this means is that this, whatever code is there above this app component class is connected to this app component. And it is a decorator for the app component. It is telling that this app component class has a selector called app-root. Its template URL is app.component.html, and its style sheets, right, is app-component.css. Now, where are these files? These files are sitting right here. So if I look at my app-component.ts, I have some code here. My style sheet is empty. So that's my decorator. Now, to use this decorator, if I don't have this statement, right? If I don't have this import statement, I don't know what this add component means. So that's why we need to import this component definition from @angular/core. Now, where is @angular/core? Again, it's in node modules. You go to @angular, there is a folder called core. That's where I am importing it from. So all these keywords are actually Angular has defined it, and if we have to use it, we have to import the corresponding code for that, and then we can use it. Okay. Any questions?
Many, man. I don't know which one to ask.
Like app component is class name, right? And that is a property.
Correct.
And so what is that my app?
It's just a name.
Oh,
Right?
that's
I
it.
can just
Okay.
say
So we
like
can another
any
name.
constant name. I'm just giving a title for giving a value. I can say ABC, XYZ, anything I can give. So this one says :string means I'm saying title is of type string, and its initial value is XYZ. That's what it means.
What will be the app root again?
App root.
Selector
So-
app root.
Yeah, so the selector app root is something that I can use in my HTML. That's a good question. So let's look at what index.html file has. See here, app root.
Okay.
So if I have to use my app root in my index.html, then I have to, this is a
Which
selector.
page, where are you right now?
I'm in index.html.
Where
So
is it?
in SRC, you minimize SRC.
Okay.
Sorry, in SRC, you minimize app,
Okay.
and then
SRC.
you have index.html. See, under in
yeah.
app is where all the code is.
Okay,
Code.
yeah. App root body. In body you have app root.
In body, I have app root.
Yeah.
See, this is the file that's getting when we run the application, right? What are you seeing? You're seeing my app, or you're seeing app root?
App root. I'm seeing in index.html.
You're seeing app root.
Yeah, I'm seeing under body app root.
Okay, what are you seeing? App root, right?
Yeah.
App. So your app root is what is. See, this is what single page application means, that there is just one page called index.html, and within that page is what we are adding more HTML files.
Okay.
What is this app-root? I said it is a selector, right? It is a selector that is defined in app-component.ts. But what is the corresponding HTML for this? That HTML is in app-component.html.
Okay.
So when you give a selector saying app-root, it is actually loading whatever HTML is there in app-component.html.
Okay.
So this HTML will get loaded.
Okay. And then style URLs will be, we are using component.css. So we are using.
Yeah, that is any styles that you
CSS.
want to use in the application. Go in that file.
Yeah. Style.css.
Oh, style.css. So style.css is
Right here.
you don't have to worry about that now.
Okay.
We will come to that. Yeah. So here there is a style URLs. This is any styles that you want to use in the HTML. You can include in app-component.css. It takes a little while to understand the connections, right, between all these different files. But yeah, so the more questions you ask, the more you will understand. So like you asked, where is this app root going to be used? So the app root was used in my index.html file. Now let me show you something else. I defined another folder which you don't have, but I defined it, called product list. In product list, I again defined a bunch of files. In this, I have a .ts file, .html file. If I open my .ts file, this is a new component. And this component again has a selector called app-product list. Now this app-product list, if you see, I have defined it in app component.html. So I am nesting it.
Yeah, just like foreign key and that primary key kind of connection.
There is a connection.
Connection.
It's
We are not calling
there's no
the
primary
foreign key.
foreign key here, but there's a
There
connection.
is a connection.
See, the idea is that let me draw it up in a PPT file that will kind of give you some more clarity. The idea is that I have a app, I have a module. Okay, this is my module. Now I have this is my component. This is my app component. This is my we go to this guy. This is my app module, right? This is the parent. Okay. Okay. Within my app component has a class and it has a view. App component. And then my app component is my app component. App component has a view and it has a class. Now, when I say it has a view, what I mean is that the view is nothing but guy here, the HTML. HTML is what you can see, right? That's why it's a view. And it has a class. What is your class? This one here. That's what it primarily means. So at a high level, if you have to visualize, right, every component has a view and it has a class. If I have to show the view, how do I show it? I need a selector. I need to tell if that's why they have given the selector option to make our life easy. I want to say that I want to show app component.html file. I want to show this HTML file. Hey, the way you can show this HTML file is by using a selector. Now, if I go to my index.html file, I'm using this selector. That's how I'm able to show the view. Now, my view, which is my app.component.html, what does it contain? It contains welcome to title. What is this title? Coming from here. So the data for my view is coming from the class. See, the concept is very similar to ASP.NET MVC. You have your class in the server side, which is providing the models to the view, and then you're able to show it. Same concept here also in Angular. All these languages, the concept is the same. They just have a little different syntax. So you can see that my view is my app.component.html and my data is coming from the class. Because if I go to my view, you can see, if you go to my view, you can see the title is coming from the class. Yeah, from here. You can see I have a double angular brackets, not angular bracket, flower brackets. What this means is that this is not a static data. This is coming from the class. This is called interpolation, or this is called one-way binding. Data from the class is coming to the view. It's called one-way binding.
Brackets, it's a syntax, right? Brackets, yeah.
Two brackets?
Is it a syntax?
It's a syntax, correct. It's a syntax for one-way binding of the data. Any questions? So here, I have one app component, I have a view, I have a class. Now, I'm going to define one more of the same. I'm going to call it product list. That's what I have here. See here, I define another component called product list. What does this contain? Same thing. It has a class, it has a view. It has a class, it has a view. And it has a selector. It has a selector because if I have to show this view, I need a selector. Only if I have a selector, I can show it. So where I'm using this selector? I'm using this selector in the view of another component. So in my app component, I'm using the selector of product list. The product list is like a child component of app component. Because see the select. So this is my parent component, right? App component is a component. Now within that, I'm using a selector called app-product list. Where is this coming from? This is coming from this new component that I had defined called product list dot component. That's where the selector is defined. This is the selector I'm using. Because I want to show the HTML that's there in product list component.html. I want to show it in my app component.html. It has its own HTML tags. Along with that, I can also show another component. And this component, it has a view. That view is again HTML. So I can kind of nest my components. Within one component, I can have another component, and so on. So let's actually, at this time, let's actually run it so that you can see what's happening. And we will go to the other concepts. So that what I'll do is I'll do a ng serve -o.
That is the run command.
That's a run command. That's to launch. See, if I do a ng serve, let me show you. It will launch the browser also. See, it is what it's doing is you can see here it's working on it's building all the modules, and you can see that it has generated JS files. I told you that the browser doesn't understand TypeScript files, TS files.
Yeah.
So all your code is actually going into main.js. When I say all the code, there can be 15 components or 50 components. All that code will go into a single file called main.js. And this is the file that the browser will understand and it will show. Well, in this case, we are showing some data here. But the idea is that if you do ng, I'll just do a Control-C and break out. It's asking if I want to terminate, I say yes. So I did a ng serve. If I don't do -o and just say ng serve, it will do the building and it will start, it will launch its own development server. There is a development server. See, Angular has its own development server and it is listening on port localhost :4200. So this application is actually running at that port on the Angular server, Angular development server. Typically in production, what happens is you have a production server. It is not a, see this Angular server is simple development server. It's really a small one that helps us to during development. Once you develop the whole thing, then you put it on a production server, which is like IaaS, which is Microsoft's web server. But for our own development purposes, Angular has given us a development server so that we can make the code to the changes, see it on the browser, and then see if the pages look the way we wanted to, debug it, do the functionality that we need, and so on. So right now, it's not launched the browser. Well, this was the old one. So right now, it's only listening. It's only launched it, and it says that, hey, I'm listening at this port. Now, if I go to this localhost, if I come here and I type that, $4,200, I'll get the same thing. If you want the browser to launch by itself, then you say -O, which means that it'll launch the browser too for you. Okay. That's the beauty of it. So I'm going to say Control-C, and then I'm going to go back to my -O. Now you can see the good thing about the Angular development server. I'm going to close this out. It's going to launch another one. It created another one. It launched another one. Yeah, as soon as I make a little change, right? Say let's say if I add here another exclamation and I save it. See, it's compiling again. Compiles, and then you see this browser refreshes on its own. I don't have to do anything. So it automatically does that. Kind of gives us convenience. So it says compile. So any change that I make, it automatically compiles and it refreshes the browser. I don't have to do anything. I just do a Control-S. So it's building it. Then it will automatically refresh this. And it will show you the changes that were made.
So this is same like ASP.NET, right? MVC, basically. The way it is done is a TypeScript.
Correct. Yes. Now
How you code here? Like it's not a Visual Studio, right? Actual.
It's an IDE. It's Visual Studio Code is the IDE. It's again an IDE from Microsoft that's used for Angular code development.
Can I take 5 minutes break?
Yeah. Let's take a break.
Yeah.
Let me pause this. Okay. So that's a component and the module and the nesting of components. Let's look at what other files are there within this folder structure that we just created. Index.html. This is the page that is actually getting loaded within the when you run the application. So if in your applications that you have, you just comment out this part, you just take it out.
Uproot?
Yeah, uproot. Just do a Control-KC, okay, and then run the application again and see what happens.
Which page we go to run the app again?
You need to run the command ng serve.
Where do I type that?
Okay, so you can, what you do is you go to view in the menu, view.
Oh, okay.
There should be terminal. Yeah, select the terminal. Yeah.
Okay.
Now here you run ng space serve.
-O.
Yeah, space hyphen o.
Where in view?
In view there is a
Oh, it didn't.
It's terminal. Okay, change the default terminal shell while selecting. ng.
So I'm getting a default my app site.
You're getting what?
Default welcome to my apps.
Yeah, now you comment out the app root that's there in body in index.html.
It's really funny.
I think the restart was a problem. Yeah. Start looking again. Okay, so we run the command. Go to view, go to terminal.
It's giving it 4200 is in view, already in use.
Yeah, so I think there's already, you launched it separately outside. What's this guy? Okay, now say ng serve, ng space serve, hyphen open, hyphen o, space hyphen o. Yeah, enter. This, oh yeah, here it's running. This guy. Okay, close this and relaunch your Visual Studio Code again. Save it. Save.
Yeah.
Did you comment that out?
No.
Oh, it didn't comment out, right? Let's comment that out.
Oh, the root.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Root. Root. Oh, it's gone. So why did it go is the question. Can you answer that question?
Because we are commenting out app dashboard, right?
Correct, exactly.
Okay.
Space. So,
Manish, you're so smart.
I'm smart, but I don't know what Ashwant is teaching, because that's not my field.
Manish is smart, but he's not working at home.
Yes. I agree. I'm lazy, man.
Okay, so you're not getting anything on the screen. Commented it out. So my point is that app-root is a selector, and that selector we commented out. So now nothing is shown on the screen. So the selector, right? Even I commented out. You can see on the screen that I'm not seeing anything. That app-root, which was in a component in the app component.ts file, by default it was supposed to load. When you say app-root as a selector, it's supposed to load app.component.html, which has welcome to the title, and again app. There's another selector. So this is like a nested component that I have. It's again has app-product list, which is nothing but app-product list is again another HTML which has all this information. So that's, since we commented out that's why it was not showing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncomment this AU, and I'm going to save it. So you can see that the page refreshes now and all that information comes back.
You do Control S for save.
Control S for save, yes.
And then it comes back, compiled successfully.
And if you see your browser, it would have refreshed.
So how you added that product one?
Product one?
No, the product that you added on the left-hand side.
Terminal.
Yeah, product list.
Product list? Yeah, I will come to that.
Okay.
You are able to see now your screen, it refreshed on its own?
Yeah.
No? So you uncommented it.
Yeah.
And it compiled it. Now go to your browser, which was open. Yeah.
Oh,
Go back. It refreshes on its own.
okay.
You uncommented it, you save it, and then go back to your browser. So where is your terminal? Yeah, so it compiled successfully on its own. And if you look at your browser, yeah, see, open it. So it came back. Refreshes on its own. So now in my case, if you look at the screen, I'm going to comment. So I have this title and then I have a table, right? So if you see here, I have the title, welcome to title. And then I have another component, another selector here, which is coming from a different component. So I'm going to comment that out. I do a Control S. And you can see that it refreshes and the table in the bottom's gone. So I commented that out. Okay, so that's the idea. So now you get the idea that a module has components. Each component has a class and a view. The view is nothing but HTML, which is specified in using template URL. And the selector is what is giving you the selector actually helps represent the view in some other HTML page or some other component. Because if I have to refer to this app.component.html, if I have to show this HTML content, I can only do it using the selector, right? Okay.
So all the view part is in HTML and all the code goes on .ts file, right?
Exactly. Yep. Okay. We saw index.html. Then there's a file called main.ts. Now, this is something that contains information to bootstrap your module. Now, there may be multiple modules in your application. You need to tell Angular what is your starting module. In this case, we are saying our starting module is app module. Well, where is app module sitting? It's in app module.ts. So app module is nothing but the class name. You're right here, right? So that's what this main.ts is saying. Now remember that every file, when you're naming it, you need to give it some meaningful name. So for example, here, it's a product list that I am creating. This component is for product list, which is that table. So I'm saying product list dot component dot ts. So when you look at it, you know the functionality is product list. It is a component file, component definition file, and it's TypeScript. Similarly, product list dot component dot html. Again, it is a view corresponding to the component. Which component? Product list. See how your naming convention should be very meaningful. What is .spec.ts? This is like we'll not cover this because this is like unit testing. This is more advanced. We won't get into that right now.
We don't need, basically, right? We don't need to understand.
You don't need to understand that right now.
Okay.
It's not required to run your Angular application. It's more for automated unit tests. If you want to do it, then you need to go in that direction. The main.ts, we saw it. Polyfill.ts is something that is used for old browsers. If you're using a browser that is IE9, IE10, IE11, then you need to uncomment this and then be able to use it. Or if you're using, it's typically for old browsers. So it's a polyfill browser. This file is for that. And then you have style.css. So if you want to use Bootstrap files, then you import that, or any CSS files that you want to use throughout the application. Then you put that in the styles.css. Then there is, so then the other important file is angular.json. Okay, so angular.json is, it is again a file that was created by the Angular command line interface. So this one, it has information about, let's say you want to, if you want to refer to Bootstrap CSS, or you want to refer to a CSS, some other CSS, then you need to include this. This is really configuration information. So you primarily don't have to, only when you're adding styles or scripts, then you come and do this. Otherwise, it pretty much, you can leave it as default. Yeah. Then you have package.json. Now, this is another file, important file. So you can see here that this file has two important areas. One is called dependencies, and the other is dev dependencies. So dev dependencies are all the modules. So when I say modules, it means node modules or node packages, right? Node modules that are used during development. Do you remember this Angular/CLI? So Angular/CLI and Angular/core. So the difference between dependencies and dev dependencies is, dependencies is something that, these are the dependent files that you need when you run the Angular application. Dev dependencies are the packages that you need to build it. You really don't need these to run it. So what we're actually doing is we are separating it out because to make our application faster. You don't want to keep loading all the packages, right? You want to only load packages that you need for running the application. For developing the application, building it on your own machine, you include those packages in dev dependencies. By default, it creates this for you. If there is anything new that you want to add, then I will show you how to do it. So basically package.json has that. Remember, there is also something called scripts here. What this means is that, remember we were doing ngserve-o. Instead of doing ngserve-o, we could also do this. Like if I come here, just come out, and I can say npm start. So what it will do is that it will indirectly invoke ngserve. See here. So for convenience purposes, some people like to use npm start, or so it will indirectly invoke this. So it's kind of a mapping. You can change it. I mean, you can do whatever name you want. You can give it start1. It's just a way to. It's just for our convenience. So I'll say npm start1. Start npm. Oh yeah, this also actually, yeah, we can just give anything. It's complaining about that. Yeah, so I think npm also has some standard reserved words. We kind of need to use that. Yeah. So it's really for building and running the application, these commands. You either use npm start or you use ngserve. It's up to you. And this is in package.json. Okay. And then you have tsconfig.json and tslint.json. So tsconfig.json it's really telling you a target environment. ES5 is yeah, these are like pretty much standard. This is like JavaScript specification. So ES stands for ECMAScript. So these are like JavaScript specifications. So you don't have to worry too much about that. So this one pretty much stays the default. We don't have to go into that. Okay. Yeah, so the key files here are, it's listed in this, also listed it in the presentation. So appmodule.ts, angular.json, package.json, tsconfig.json. It is actually a configuration used to convert TypeScript to JavaScript. Basically, that's what it is. App component.ts, component definition, app component.html, HTML template. Right? Our view. That's what it is. So we saw the dependencies between modules and components. Each module has a bunch of components, and any external components, modules that we depend on, we kind of do an import of that. Yeah, ng module, we saw the definition of each of the different pieces in appmodule.ts file, right? Any questions so far? Okay. What we'll do now is we will look at. I want you to define a new. Oh, before that, let's do. Okay. So this is a. So here, one thing that we saw was there's a concept called interpolation, which is one-way binding. So you can see what one-way binding is. Whatever values are defined in the class, that can be used to display in the HTML. And if you want to do that, you use the double flower brackets to show it. Okay? So that's called one-way binding. So the binding is happening from the class to the view. Now, there's a two-way binding too, which we will look at in a little while. So here, yeah. So one-way binding is, there's a property binding. So these are property bindings, right? So we're binding the property title to the HTML. Now there's also event binding. So what does event binding mean? Let's look at it. So in event binding, let's say I go to my HTML and I define a button, right? Say button on click or click equal to, I'll say show message. Okay. And this show message I will define in my, what is show? So what is click?
Event
What is show message?
properties.
Event handler.
Event handler, yeah.
Handler, correct. It's handling the event. So where do I define the event handler? Again, it has to go into my class. So I say show message. Any parameters? No. Then what is the return type? Void, open brackets, and I say console.log. Today is a wonderful day. Okay. And I'm gonna, let me save this and run this. So, oh. Still compiling it. Once it compiles it and generates the required JS file, then our browser will refresh. Okay, our button is too small. Let's make it a little big. So we'll come here. Yeah, so we'll give it a name. Click me. I just need to save it. It'll compile, it'll refresh on its own. Okay. Now we wrote an event handler, right? Let's do a F12 and look at the console. So what is that we did here in the code? We wrote an event handler for the click events, and the event handler is in the class. And what we are on in the console, we are saying today is a wonderful day. So we'll try that. So you see, you got that message. So that's how you wire up your events with something that you want to do in the class. Now, this is a very simple example. So in the real world scenario, what you would want to do is when you click, maybe you want to save something in the database. So then from the class, you actually make a HTTP call. So first thing is you send that a message to the class. So in the class, you define a like a method saying save data, just an example. Say void. And then I will call this method on click, and then I will call I'll call some more Angular methods to post the data to the server. So remember, all this code that we are writing is not on the is not getting executed on the server. It is all Angular is all TypeScript converted to JavaScript. So it's all on the client side. So all these files will get downloaded to the client side. When we want to send information and save it to the database, we will have to send it to a web API. And that web API will receive the data, and that web API will use a concept like generic repository and unit of work and push it into the database. That's how the flow is. So far we have not come to the point where we are able to post data to the server. We will look at that. That's something that we will look at. So you get the idea of how to link your HTML with the class, right? So you need to, you can wire up from your HTML, you can wire it up to an event handler in the class, and then from there on, the event handler will do things. That's the idea here. So that's your one-way binding. So binding to the, like you see here, product list. I'm binding. This is a property binding, and this is an event binding, right? Property bind page title is a property here in the class, and click toggle image is like it's an event handler. That's what we just saw. Now, let's look at two-way binding. A two-way binding is if I change something in the UI, it should also change the value of the property on the in the class. One-way binding is if I change a value of the property in the class, it shows in the UI as a different value. But two-way binding is both ways. If I change a value in the UI, it should reflect in the property of the class. If I change the value of the property in the class, it should reflect on the UI. So it's two-way, right? So let's look at two-way. So for two-way binding, you need to use something called ng model. And ng model is like a directive. It's called a directive, and it is actually available in the in this module, browser module. So oh no, ng model is available in the forms module. Sorry, it's not in the browser module. It's in the forms module. That's why we have included a forms module. So let me show you that. So what I have here is let me come here. I will uncomment this guy. I just refreshed it. It's refreshing my application. So it loaded the header and also this table. Now, where did this table come from? The table came from this selector. Now, where is this selector sitting? This selector is sitting in a different component. Here. Okay, now what is the HTML connected to the selector? That HTML content is sitting in product list.component.html. It is here. So that table that we are seeing is all sitting here. Make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So now I was talking about two-way binding.
So in MVC, actually, we have written all these things in view, right?
Yes, yes.
So same as here, in the folders.
Right, exactly. It's very similar. It's same thing that in MVC it is .cshtml is your file extension. Here it is HTML only. Also in MVC you are passing the whole model to the view so that you can show the data. Sometimes you have C# code also in the view, if you remember. Here you don't have any such thing. It is pure HTML only. There is no C# code. All the Angular code is sitting in a different file, which is your .ts file. So there's a clear separation of code versus view in case of Angular.
This is much simpler than MVC.
Yeah, it's much cleaner, much simpler, much faster than MVC. Yeah.
And this is
I wrote something on the Angular before.
to this, whatever we want,
Yeah.
enhancements we want to do, we can
Yeah.
always do that.
Yeah. So that's the beauty of the command line interface, Angular command line interface. It generates a template and gives it to you.
Yeah, and we
You can
just make
start
changes
working
to
on
it,
it.
whatever we need to, whatever the requirements of the company, what functionality and all we want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Manish, you're asking something?
Yeah, like the writing even the code is curly bracket, right?
Yeah.
Me too.
That's
Right.
the curly bracket.
Yeah.
Too much information.
Yeah, I think it kind of, even it took me some time when I started, like a few years back, it took me some time to get the concept, like the nesting of the components, what's the root module and how the module is connected to the component, how the nesting of components. You kind of need to think again. You may not get it the first time, you need to go back home and then need to open the code, look at it and understand the link and see how it works and try. So with two-way binding, you can see here what I have done here is I have defined an input text, just like in HTML, right? I'm using a bootstrap class, and then I'm saying ng model equal to list filter. Now, what is list filter? It is a property in my class. It is a property of type string, and I'm saying equal to sweaters. I just give it a value, calling sweaters. Now, I'm also in the next row. So this is one row, bootstrap row. This is another row. The next row, I am doing a double flower brackets and displaying the same property. Okay, so let's run this. So I'm saying sweaters. Sweaters is the value. So this was the input box that we were displaying. So that some of it got cut off. I need to check that. But the idea is that you can see here, if I change this, you see this value is getting changed on its own. So I'm changing a value in the text box. The property, so I'm trying to show you the connection. So I'm changing the value in this text box. As I change the value in the text box, this list filter is changed in the class, and it changes that list filter, and that list filter that is displayed in the HTML is also getting changed. It's like a two-way binding. Change in the UI, backend class got it. Same thing I'm showing on the UI, and it shows the updated value. See that? So this is what is the thing that is there in the input text box. And this is the value that we are displaying here, filtered by the value. So it's like a two-way binding. So if you have to use two-way binding, you have to use ng model. Now, let me show you something. So if I have to use ng model, let's say I don't have this. I haven't defined forms module. Control S. Okay. So what happened? My application did not load. So in such cases, what you do is you do a F12, right? You do an F12, it will list the error that happened. It says can't bind to ng model since it isn't a known property of input. So it's saying I don't know what ng model is. Now the reason why it's not able to understand what ng model is because we have not included forms module. Ng model, that directive, it's called a directive, is coming from forms module. So you need to include forms module here in the module, in the app module, which is your base, is a root module, and also do the import. So once I do that, then it will refresh on its own, and then it should show the output that we need. So now there's no errors. It's running fine. Get it? So that's the two-way binding. So that's what I'm showing in this slide here. That ng model, you need to use ng model. Ng model comes as part of forms module, and then the binding happens both ways. So you change a value in the UI, the property value changes. You change the value in the property, the UI changes. Any questions? All clear? Okay. Now let's look at passing values between the parent component and the child component. So when you're having a parent and a child component, then you need to pass values. So before that, okay, let's actually define the. I think I want you to define a child component. So I already have one defined, but you go ahead and define one. So right click on the app folder and say new folder. And then define it as, I'm going to just define it as product list 1, but you define it as product list. Whatever name you want to give.
Under app?
Yeah, define product list. And then under that, that's a new folder. Under that, you now need to define a new file.
New folder. What is the name of the folder again?
Product list you can give.
Product list. One word.
What's the name of the file?
Sorry?
What's the name of the file?
The file is, we'll first create a TS file. So it's a new file and say product list dot, I'm going to say one dot component dot TS.
Oh,
you give product list dot component dot TS.
I just found a folder product list.
Sure. Inside that, right click on that.
And then new file.
New file.
And then what do I name it?
Product list dot component dot TS.
Components.
Component, not TS. Now, first step will be to do the export. Export class product list component. Open close brackets. Okay. Then define the decorator for the component. So you say add component, brackets open, flower brackets open, define the selector.
Select flower bracket open.
Here. So first is a parenthesis, and then inside that you put a flower bracket.
Oh, first is a parenthesis. Oh Lord.
So give it a name. So give a list name like prod -list. And then comma. What is your template URL? Template URL is your HTML file. I'll say product list 1 dot component dot HTML. Okay. You don't have to give the style URLs. If you don't have style URLs, you don't have to give. It's not mandatory. So I'm not giving it in this case. So home. Now you, yeah.
Component. What is, oh my God, what did all this nonsense came?
Which one?
Factory name. I don't know where it came from. Oh, I must have clicked something wrong.
That's fine. So first define your component.
Yeah.
Class.
Component.
Say first component class. Say export class. Define your class name, which is your component name. Make this one because I already have that. Yeah, define a name for that. Export class product list component. Open brackets, close brackets. That's your class. Then define the decorator.
Component. The flower curly braces, right? अभी ये कहाँ से आ गया? Lord.
Export.
Yeah.
Yep.
Export.
Yeah.
I mean like that. Okay.
Okay.
Product list component, and then
inside that, first one is your selector. Define your selector. What's your selector? Is the name, give it a name that you would be using to represent the view. So I have given prod-list.
Can't see anything.
I'll switch on the light.
अब वो नहीं दिख रहा है. Oh my lord. Okay, prod.
So what are you guys are trying to see? I can't see here.
Okay, let's put on the light then. Sorry, I'll put on the light. Prod list.
I wrote that one. Product list.
There is a semicolon after that, right?
It's a comma.
Comma. Okay, and then I need a
Then
template
define a
URL.
template URL.
Yeah.
Now the template URL is a HTML file. So we don't have an HTML file yet. So let's say I get rid of this, right? For now, I define a new HTML file. So I right click on this and I say new file. I say product list one dot component dot HTML, right? So if I come here and I say double quotes, I say dot.
Can you not drag and drop the HTML file there?
Probably not. No, it doesn't work that way.
Oh man, that's a lot of work, right? Typing.
Product list one dot component dot HTML. Okay.
Product list dot component.
But typing is a lot of work, Aswan. We may need to hire a PA, project manager.
Dot HTML, right?
Yeah, dot HTML.
Okay.
Yeah, with actually with CLI there is another way to do it. I will show a quicker way to do it. I will show you that, but this will help you understand. So it's still giving you a squiggly here. So it's saying it doesn't know what component is. So then we need to do our import. Import component
Import
from at Angular / core.
component.
Why is it still complaining? From at Angular / core. Okay, the other core, the other // Okay. Now the squiggly is gone. So now it knows what component is. So it did it. Okay.
Explore. Okay.
Okay. Now the next thing is for us to put something in the HTML. So let us put some thing saying h1. This is my nested component. Just put a h1 tag in that.
Did you add that HTML file, product list? .com?
Yeah, I just added it. Okay. Now two files we have defined. We've defined the product list one component. Now since we added a new component, okay, now let's see. Oh, I have a question for you now. Now in my app component.html file, I want to show this new component that we just defined using the selector. How do I do it? In the new component that we have defined, I want to show it in our app component.html file, in our parent component.
Import.
Product list is, I want to consider that as a child component, and I want to consider app component.ts as our parent component, and I want to show the child component in the parent component. What should I do? I can include the selector, right, that I defined for this new component, child component. What is the selector we defined? Prod-list. So I'm going to include that here. Prod-list.
What is that from L? What is that align center on the top?
So this is it.
No, that's not. No, from the import one component. वो क्या था? What's the last word?
Where is that?
It's under product components.ts.
Here?
Yeah, what is that on the top? Angular.
Yeah.
At Angular
From
/
at Angular / core.
Cool. Okay.
So now what I did is, this is my child component, correct? The new one that we just defined is my child component, or I want to make it a child component. When does it become a child component? When I take the selector of that component and put it in the HTML of another component, then it becomes the child component of the other component, right?
So then that after comment that will become the parent component, right?
Yes, that's
Can you
correct.
please repeat that again? I was busy
So-
typing.
Sure. So product list is, let's say it is component B, right?
Yeah.
My app.component.ts, which has my app component, let's call it component A.
Okay.
If I want to make component B the child of component A,
Okay.
then how do I do it? What is my, so app.component.ts is a component. What is the name of the component? It's app component, right? We defined a new component.ts file with a new component in it called product list component, correct? I want to make product list component as a child of app component. How do I do that? I take the selector of product list component, which is prod-list, and include that selector in the HTML of app component.html, which is the app component.html is the parent HTML. So I just did that product-list. I included that in the HTML of my parent component. So what's my parent component here? Question for Shalini.
The parent component is app component.html, and we created the child one called product component
Correct.
dot
Correct.
html.
Right. HTML is the view.
Yeah.
TS
the
is the component.
component.
So the class is the component.
Yeah.
HTML is the view. So app component.ts is the parent component. Product list.component.ts is the one we just created, and we want to make this the child of app component.ts. How do I do it? I take the view of the child component and include that view in the view of the parent component. Then it becomes a parent-child relationship. That's what I just did.
And put it in the parent component, right?
Put it in the HTML of the parent component. Put it in the parent view. Take the child view and put it in the parent view. Include it in the parent view. So your HTML is the view. Manish, sounds okay?
Yeah. Basically, we are inserting there in the view HTML.
Correct. So now let's look at the output. Oh, what happened? Why is it complaining? Any guesses why it's complaining? So it gives the error. So if you do F12 in the console, it shows what is the error.
It says prod-list is not a known element.
Why?
Template parse error, because we are saying product list. We are not saying prod list, right?
Okay, let's look at it. So we said prod list, and our definition also says prod list.
Yeah.
Why is it complaining?
Component, then add customer. No.
The product list component.html is wrong there. See.
Is wrong. Why is it wrong? It has only a h1 tag here, saying this is my nested component. That's all it has. Simply simple HTML.
Right. We have to import here.
We have to import. Where we have to import?
On the top of this HTML, no?
The top. You're kind of going in the right direction. So the import has to happen in app module.ts. My app module.ts is where you need to include your new component that you just defined. So my new component that I just defined is product list one dot component. In your case, it's going to be product list component. As soon as I do that, the import also automatically comes. And now I save it. And now let's see.
So it should not be an
Yay!
app component. So it should not be an app component.ts. That's the parent.
Well, that's the parent component.
Yeah.
The app module.ts is a parent module.
Okay.
Which has all information about all the modules, all the components.
Okay.
See,
So whenever we create like a child component, we have to.
So we are putting it in the parent also, and then putting it in the module also.
What did
component.
Okay. What did we put it? What did we put in the parent?
Selected.
Selected. Good. What did we put in the module? We are telling the module that there is a new component now. See, your scope of execution is the module.
Okay.
So your module needs to be aware of any new components that you add. Otherwise, it will complain. Otherwise, it will.
Okay.
One component doesn't know about the other component. If you have to make components talk to each other or components include one component in another, the module needs to be made aware that this is my list of components. That's what's happening. Make sense? So anytime you add a new module, even if it is not a child module, right? Even if it is not parent child, but if it is a separate module that you created, you should include it here, because the module needs to be made aware that hey, a new component exists. So you can see that welcome to XYZ came from here, my parent component HTML. Welcome to title. What is title? Title is in the class. Title is XYZ. It came from the parent HTML. And then I have a button, which is okay. And then I have my child component selector, prod list. So what is this prod list? It is defined in the child component. That's the selector is there. It's defined here. And what is the corresponding view? That's defined in the HTML file, which is what's here. This is my nested component. That's what we're showing. So parent child, right? So I can have n number of such components, right? So let's say that I go about. So I have I have another component defined here. So let's see if I do this, right? So this is called app prod list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy, go to my parent, and I'm going to say I'm going to define a div class call 6. Div. What is this class equal to row? What does class equal to row means? Bootstrap row.
Yeah.
It's a bootstrap row. What is class equal to call 6 means? 6 elements, 6 columns. So in my first six columns, I'm going to put the first child element. In my next 6 columns, I want to put my second child element. So what's my second child element? It's app prod list. So I did that. Now it's compiling. And then I'll look at the browser. So in the first 6, it put my one component. In the second 6, it put my other component. Make sense?
Yeah.
So you see, this is a single page application. All this fun is happening in one index.html file. So if you remember, right? So in your index.html file is where you define the root. What is this app-root? App-root is, if I go here, it is a selector of my root component. Then within the root component, in the HTML of the root component, I have defined two more selectors of my child components. So kind of, so even like having menus, right? You can even have, we will look at menus. So you'll get a feeling that the page is going from two different pages, but actually it is all happening in one index.html file. So that's why Angular applications are called single page applications. SPA, SPA. So that's a yeah, I think I'll stop here and see if you have any questions so far. Manish, any questions?
Right now, no, unless I do it myself.
Okay.
Ashwin, can you please put all this? I put still this node. Can you put all this stuff here?
Yeah. Can you also install Visual Studio Code? You need to install Visual Studio Code. So go to Google and say download Visual Studio Code. Search for that. Download. Space Visual Studio. Yeah, so remember that in an Angular application, it's the module, the root module, and then you have components. Each component has a class and a view, and then you can have nested components. So that's where all this fun is happening.
I can do this one, right? Running Visual Studio Code on Windows.
Yeah, go to this one. Download. Yeah, first one. We want to download it. Okay, yeah, this one. It's gonna download it now. It's gonna happen. Yeah, save it. You already have Visual Studio Code? Looks like. Give me just 1 second.
Did I already do
Looks like. So here.
it? I must
Yeah.
have told my husband.
So this is Visual Studio Code.
Okay, good.
See, your husband's so good.
I tell him to do this, do that. He was after me, do your homework, do your homework. Tell Ashwant you don't understand what is control and all this. I said, I understand. He said, why didn't you do your homework then? He's after my life.
Yeah. So
I said, Aishwarya ditched me.
Basically, you do one thing, you just follow this video. That is really nothing.
It's a group effort, right? To find a job, a lot more is needed, right?
so you downloaded the node? Node is downloaded
Yeah.
and installed?
Yeah.
Okay. So Visual Studio Code is done, node is done. Then we need to do CLI. So let's do that.
Yeah, I want to practice this at home. Yeah.
Terminal, and then go and say npm install -g and Angular.
Hey, Grandma.
So next class will be our last class.
No, Ashwin, don't say that, please. We can't let you go.
But we can meet in the library.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that you guys get this, you do these assignments, and so that you get the concepts. So we can meet in the library and look at your assignment and you can clarify your doubts. So next class we will cover the menus and sending,
Yeah, that's what, how to store in backend.
yeah, sending information from Angular to the server and storing it in the database. So the part where from Web API using generic repository and storing it in the database is the same.
Actually, Web API we didn't do anything. Right?
Yeah, it is the same. So ASP.NET MVC or ASP.NET Web API, from the controller onwards, it is the same. So it's just that Web API doesn't have its own UI. The UI will be Angular. ASP.NET MVC has its own UI, which is CSS/HTML. That's the difference. Yeah.
Ashwin, how will we get jobs?
Yeah, I want you to. That's. I'll be working on that. So, but you guys need to help me by doing this and
help you help us.
yeah, help me help you by doing the. I want you to understand it. So do the assignment and understand it, so that you get comfortable with. See, once you do the CRUD operation, then your rest of it is you can figure it out. So if you are able to do that end to end from the UI to the C# logic to the database, then you're 80% there. So 20% is you can figure it out.
So when is Ashwarya free? Tomorrow?
Yeah, let's get hold of this Ashwarya.
Yeah,
He's being acting pricey, you know.
Yeah, we don't.
Ashwarya, we also bought house. We don't get involved so much in the house.
Just half an hour.